This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've got Chapter 8 of Vatican Abdicator on the way. BC has the human race making new stinger ships, spaceships to fight, training up pilots as he tries to fight a war on two fronts, versus Dolomay and against the Eldred. Dolomay with his periodic raids and strikes, and the Eldred with their looming threat of complete annihilation. Although they have been able to, at least for the time being, come up with a cure for the Eldred plague, so they're going to be able to maybe stop that in its tracks. There are other aliens out there too, but they've been sort of quiet until now. The Flaze and the Domo are about to make their expectations known to BC and the UTZ as we get through Chapter 8 of Vatican Abdicator, coming up on Glow in the Dark Radio. You know, it turns out this is the longest chapter in the book, in Vatican Abdicator. I guess I learned from my lessons in not breaking up the chapters properly for Vatican Ambassador. Probably as I was narrating it, I was going, what was I thinking? Because I know as I've been presenting it again now with an encore presentation here, I'm like, what was I thinking? Now this, I actually looked at this chapter, which is about a half hour long, 33 minutes, so just over. And I wondered if I should break it up, because that's kind of long. But I went to about the middle, and it's the middle of, well, one of the big scenes that's going on in this chapter. Let me say, I don't want to give anything away here ahead of time. So I was just like, you know what, this kind of needs to be this length of chapter, so gonna let it go. And it turns out to be the longest chapter in Vatican Abdicator, as far as I can tell. At least glancing down the times of the chapters, so we've got that to look forward to. And I don't have much book news, actually. I'm still waiting for the Vatican Assassin 15th Anniversary Edition audiobook to go out as a free audiobook. It hasn't yet, so once that starts to hit distribution and starts to show up for free in some places, I will let you know. Well, with such a long chapter on the way and not much book news, we will get into Chapter 8 of Vatican Abdicator next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
Hi, I'm JC. My co-host Cindy and I host the Fix It Home Improvement Podcast. We cover projects that every homeowner should know and top-rated products for home and garden. And for fans of Mike, we keep you posted on new smart home systems and products like robot vacuums and robot lawnmowers that seemed like science fiction not too long ago. You can check it out on your favorite podcast app. It's Fixit, F-I-X-I-T, Home Improvement.
Now here's Chapter 8 of Vatican Abdicator on Glow in the Dark Radio. For the next 2 months, the resources of the UTZ and the project are poured into 2 missions, one overt, one covert, vaccinations against the plague, and construction in the asteroids. UTZ and Project Doctors travel across the Earth, Moon, and Mars, through all human settlements and outposts, administering the vaccine for the plague. Cleanup efforts at the demolished Stinger shipyard on Earth are out in the open. Wentworth decided they should make it look like the UTZ was planning on building ships there again. Construction of the new base on Ceres and the building of the new Stinger shipyard nearby are being kept off the public's radar. Dolomay hasn't hit an Earth target since he nuked the old shipyard 2 months ago. Though he's not around, his whereabouts can be guessed. Anita has conveyed to BC more complaints from the Domo and The Flaze of further attacks by Dolomay on their worlds, and they from their neighbors, as Dolomay's raiders strike far and wide away from the solar system. Dolomay is evidently using his ancient navigational knowledge to pick other targets around the galactic neighborhood. He keeps his now reportedly 3 ships on the move. They strike together as BC predicted, and, as Wentworth had observed, it seems to be keeping them from attacking targets in the solar system. Much like the UTZ Council, Dolomay doesn't seem to know about the new construction in the asteroids. He has left the Ceres site and the new shipyard nearby alone. The project's original asteroid base is now well defended, and he hasn't returned there either. Construction has been going at a frenzied pace, at both the shipyard and on Ceres' new operations base. BC travels on a project transport to the project's old asteroid base to check in with Anita. She's been overseeing the ongoing construction. He asked the ship's pilot to fly by both projects before heading into the old project base so he could see the progress for himself. BC's ship buzzes past the Ceres site. Massive banks of construction lights illuminate the half-built facility. The main dome rivals the size of the main dome on Lunar Prime. And like Lunar Prime, 6 tubular corridors radiate out from the dome. 2 of the corridors simply end, awaiting future construction. The other 4 end in smaller domes, also interconnected by corridors, creating a partial outer ring. Out beyond that ring lies a ring of defensive posts, armed batteries already fully built and functional, bristling with defensive weapons. After the Ceres flyby, they cruise on past the new shipyard facilities. Thanks to Anita and her crew's efforts, they're already building ships, even as they build the shipyard around them. There are several ships scattered around the facilities in various stages of completion. The facilities look incomplete and temporary. There's a slapped-together quality to everything that reveals the haste of its construction. Then again, the place is less than 2 months old. Most of their efforts have gone into building new ships, not into fixing up the buildings around them. Stinger ships constantly patrol around the base and the shipyard. Ships come off the assembly line and go right into service, soon as they can be crewed up. BC's transport is full of novice pilots, all coming out to finish their training and get their ships. He leans back from the viewport and looks back at his fellow passengers, all crowded against the viewports looking out at ships they might soon be flying. The passengers settle back into their seats as they pull away from the shipyard and head for the old Project Asteroid base. The trip through the asteroids takes another 2 hours. After bobbing and weaving through the rocks, they finally touch down at the old base. Anita meets BC at the base's landing dock. "BC, good to see you," she says with a smile, and she gives him a quick hug. "Anita, how are you?" he says, hugging her back. She pulls away, quickly looks around, and then answers. "Busy, building a shipyard and building ships. That and listening to aliens complain." "At least they're only complaining," BC observes. "So far. At least, I think the Flaze are complaining," she says, scrunching up her forehead in remembered frustration. "With them, it's hard to tell." She realizes something she meant to tell BC right away. "Dolomay's back. He just hit an Earth target. You were traveling, so you probably didn't hear. The media are still calling him a rogue UIN unit," Anita tells him. Her expression shifts. She picks back up on her past thought. "And besides the aliens complaining, I've got to listen to Del and Krish harping on the fact they can't get their hands on Eldred technology. Thanks for planting that seed." "Well, that's one of the reasons I'm here. I still want to capture an Eldred ship so they can take it apart. You can bet Dolomay's been acquiring tech well beyond ours in his raids. That nuke he used on the shipyard was Flaze, by the way. Use that as leverage if you can. And we know the Eldred have more advanced gear." "You too, huh? You sound just like them," she says, shaking her head. "Well, that's good. I thought you were coming here to check up on me. Make sure I wasn't fucking up your ships," Anita says with a little bit of an edge in her voice. "So fucking defensive. Guy can't get a break." "Damn, I'm hurt," PC says with a touch of sarcasm to lighten the tone. He tries to reassure her. "I trust you to build the ships just fine. But I did want to see how things were going. And maybe I wanted to see you too. Ever think of that? Not that I'm still so sure of that now. Sorry, she apologizes. I'm just a little stressed. Sorry, BC says for no reason. The news media have been asking for you since Dolomay's new attack, Anita says, changing the subject. You can have your own stress fest. They're asking why the UTZ isn't doing something to try to stop these UIN attacks, instead of hiding out like they are, holed up on Wentworth Station, guarded by what's left of the UTZ fleet. Great. There are only 40 ships there. How many more ships do we have right now? Anita asks him. Well, there are 20 on Mars. How many fully functional ships do you have here? Fully functional at this point today? 15. Great. Our fleet is 75 ships, BC says, depressing himself with the low number. We'll have 5 more ready by next week, Anita says in encouragement. On the line now? He asks her. Yeah. Do we have crews to man them? You rode in with them today. Those newbies? Jish, they hardly seem ready. What are we supposed to do, BC? The project's tapped out. We've pulled in all our pilots from Cat's Eye and the other outposts. We've lost a lot of seasoned UTZ pilots already. Wentworth tells me these guys are it. We're still training more, he tells her. I know. Just can't do it fast enough, she laments. She gets a distant look in her eyes as she receives a comm message. Why him? She asks and listens. BC can't hear the other side of the conversation. Shit, she says as she focuses on BC again. We've got a Flaze ship outside asking for permission to dock, and there's a joint Flaze and Domo delegation on board asking to meet with you. Me? Why me? Yeah, BC, I asked them that too. The Flaze say the Eldred have designated you the human representative. Great, BC sighs. But how did they know I was here? I just got here. What, did they follow me in? That I don't know. Lucky guess? Anita suggests mockingly. Give them permission to land, I guess. Have an honor guard meet them at their ship and escort them to the conference room near the landing area. This will be your first time, won't it? Anita exclaims as the thought occurs to her. It will, I'm a virgin, he jokes. Anita darkens. Don't joke. I think you need to be very careful here, BC, she cautions. These are very dangerous aliens. You know about the Domo. We told you how vampiric they are. The Flaze are inscrutable. We still know so little about them. She trails off, a little embarrassed by her show of concern. Come with me, then, BC asks her. I need your help, your knowledge. A thought occurs to him, stark and brilliant. I know exactly what to do. And I've got an idea, he tells her. Now that sounds dangerous, she says with a laugh. It may be. I want to get the Domo and the Flaze to reveal themselves to the public. We'll introduce them. Are you insane? Maybe. Let's open it all up. Blow it all wide open. Fuck the UTZ Council. Let's introduce the public to the Domo and the Flaze. Show them the Eldred. Tell the public about Dolomay being an alien. He already tried to tell the public about the aliens, even if people thought he was crazy. I'm sick of the secrecy. I don't think it's doing us any good lying to the public about what's really going on out here. What? Anita can't believe it. Look, BC says, getting serious. This is all going to blow people's minds at best. At best. At worst, they won't believe it. I'm thinking if we make it all common knowledge with 2 aliens standing there, right next to us, it might make us more believable. You did say the news media were clamoring to talk to me. Anita smiles. You're crazy, but good crazy. I like that. It just might work. BC sees the Domo and the Flaze in person for the first time when he enters the conference room. The Domo look almost human, like fat bald men with oval, slightly pointed heads, although their mouths move the wrong way, and they look like they were put on wrong, sort of sideways. These 2 Domo each stand about 5'6" on the short side. They are rounded, rotund creatures. BC can see their pointed teeth gnash as they speak to each other, each sharp point moving independently in the vertical slash. Where the Domo are curved, the Flaze are all angles. They stand taller, too. The 2 Flaze in the delegation stand well over 6.5 feet tall, but walk stooped over. They are thin and bony, if they have bones under their taut, leather-like, flaky gray skin. Bipedal, the Flaze could be called humanoid, but they'd never be mistaken for human beings. Their heads are too long and large, for one thing. They have what appear to be 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth beneath, but their eyes are large, multifaceted silver jewels, their nose just 2 thin vertical slits in the middle of their face, and their mouths are horizontal slits, rimmed by sharp, spiky ridges instead of teeth. BC stands, with Anita, Krish, and Del beside him, on the opposite end of the long oval conference room table from the aliens. The 2 Domo finish speaking to each other and turn to face them. BC looks across the table at the 4 aliens, taking it all in. Meeting the Eldred kind of prepared me for... Whoa, what's that? Kind of nausea? Sort of a wave of exhaustion. Is that the Domo? The vampiric qualities Anita and the boys mentioned? One of the Flaze speaks first. Whispery, slithery sounds slip from the taller Flaze's spiky mouth. An apparent translator, a device on the Flaze's arm, begins speaking in English. You? The Campion? Human? Leader? BC waits for more, but there is silence. He decides they're waiting for an answer. I am Bernard Campion, he says. The Flaze makes another series of whispery, slithering sounds. The translator kicks on after he finishes. We, the Flaze. These, the Domo. We come. With you. Wait, BC says. You come to what with us? BC can't understand the translator. The 2 Flaze confer. The shorter Flaze speaks and is translated. We negotiate with you, the translator says. One of the Domo takes this as his cue to speak. You are both a great danger and in great danger, the Domo says in English, his voice smooth and greasy, with a hint of an old British accent. As this situation is of our creation, we feel the need to once again involve ourselves in human affairs. Your creation, BC goads them, curious to their response. The Domo and the Flaze look at each other. The Flaze speak, whispery, slithering sounds left untranslated this time. The Domo answer briefly in a sing-song voice that sounds a bit like a funeral chant. The Domo turn back to BC. The short one speaks again. We have been helping you humans for some time now, the Domo explains to him. And helping yourselves to us, too, Krish says in a low voice. The Domo hear him and appear disturbed. Anita looks Krish down with a withering stare filled with daggers. The Domo, taken aback momentarily, then continue. Yes, well, as it were, the Domo says, sounding like a fussy old British man. We have protected your planet from the Eldred for thousands of your years. The Flaze speaks, all slithering whispers. The translator then does its part. Domo speak. Half true. Some fact. Domo way. Not protection. Hide you. Guarded you. Watch development. Hope. Gain advantage. Bring you in. Our allies. Break iron grip. Eldred. Failed. The Domo leader speaks again after shooting a glance at the Flaze. Still, in hiding you, we were protecting you. We allowed your race to grow and develop. Had the Eldred found the human race any earlier, they would have wiped you out in one beat of your heart. The Flaze hisses and whispers, and is translated. Familiar. Ancient enemy. BC nods. The Eldred told me about them, and they showed me what they looked like. They tell me we humans are the Ancient Enemy reborn, or at least an offshoot of them. The Flaze hisses and whispers, and says through the translator, Yes, the Eldred, created race, Ancient Enemy, servant race, million years ago, Ancient Enemy, advanced, brutal, savage, Eldred rise, destroy Ancient Enemy, scientists, Ancient Enemy, geneticists, change Eldred, altered, overthrow Ancient Enemy, final destruction, other geneticists send seeds out to stars, bundles, DNA, genetic material, star seeds, land, planets, restart race, millions before end. The Domo picks up the thread of the story. We watched as the Eldred tracked down these star seeds throughout the centuries. Wherever one was found, all life on the planet would be destroyed by the Eldred in their attempt to stop the return of the Ancient Enemy. The Eldred had already hit your Earth once. They didn't think they needed to return. The Flaze hisses and whispers and is translated. One starseed, eluded, Eldred, we track, seed lands, here, your planet,
Earth, not same, ice, seed spill, DNA, you develop.
We kept you safe, hidden away from the Eldred, the Domo says. Otherwise, your planet would have suffered the same fate as so many others. So, you see, we feel somewhat responsible for all of this.
I see, BC says.
Pretty much backs up what the Eldred told me. The Eldred do not see it, but your race is different from the Ancient Enemy,
the Domo says. The Flaze hisses and whispers. The translator says,
Eldred may see it, you, not destroyed.
How are we different? BC asks.
You,
the Domo starts, then stops.
Your race possesses another dimension, I guess I'd say. It's hard to translate what I mean.
The Eldred did mention something about our religions, BC observes.
Yes, the Domo agrees enthusiastically. That is an example of what we mean. Then the Eldred do see it.
The Flaze interrupts with hisses and whispers, translated as,
Dolomay turns you, humans turn, be Ancient Enemy.
Or at least he's trying to.
Do you know what's going on? The Domo says.
Out there?
He asks, making a sweeping gesture with his arm. I've been told Dolomay is now raiding your settlements, BC responds.
This is only half the truth, the Domo tells him, echoing the Flaze's earlier words.
The Flaze hisses and whispers, and the translator speaks again.
Dolomay, stolen ships, modified, improved, ships land, crews disembark, wholesale slaughter, kill all, take all, and worse.
Worse, BC asks.
Did you know you can write the Eldred?
The Domo asks him. What?
The Ancient Enemy created the Eldred to serve them in every way,
the Domo clarifies.
Oh. Dolomay has led his crew in this activity. It unfortunately usually kills the Eldred involved, but it seems to provide immense pleasure to the Ancient Enemy. Dolomay and his crew are doing this to every Eldred they find. You see, Dolomay tries to turn humans back into the Ancient Enemy.
Wait, BC puzzles. If they kill everyone, how do you know all this?
Some have escaped to speak of the atrocities, the Domo explains, but only narrowly. They were left for dead, or otherwise managed to somehow be overlooked.
The Flaze hisses and speaks again.
Eldred grow insane, anger,
the Flaze translator says.
Tell me about it, BC says in a low voice.
The Flaze begins a long hiss and raspy conversation. The translator starts.
Will tell again.
No, BC says quickly. I'm sorry, that's just an expression. You don't need to.
Eldred, angered, violated.
The Flaze continues for a moment. Then the translator stops and then says,
Understanding.
This is some of what we come to tell you, the Domo says, unpleasant though these details may be.
More,
the Flaze hisses and is translated.
Eldred cannot stop. Dolomay.
Among the, civilized races of the galaxy, it is usual for a race to police their own, the Domo says. It is therefore up to you to stop Dolomay. You must stop Dolomay, or the Eldred will soon bring their planetary devastator to your system here. To remove the taint of Dolomay, they will stop hunting him and turn their attention to your planets and eliminate any base of support he might have.
Great, BC sighs. So, you guys want to help us, right? BC asks. The Flaze again hisses and whispers and is translated.
This help. Information. No more.
What? BC tries not to raise his voice.
This is it. Our information is valuable to you, is it not?
The Domo asks. Look, I don't need this information. I need ships. BC loses it a little. I need for my scientists to get their hands on Eldred technology. Can you help with that? What about your technology? Let my scientists take a look at your tech. The Domo and the Flaze all look away from BC. Anita clears her throat.
BC? She says quietly.
Yes, Anita?
The Domo and the Flaze are sharing their tech with us, and we with them. It's already happening. Yes! The Domo leader perks up. Your transspace drive is quite a marvel. The expression on the Domo's face makes BC wince involuntarily, although he's sure the bizarre gnashing of pointy teeth is supposed to be the approximation of a smile. Great, BC says. Just great. So, we've gotten all we're going to get from these clowns, then. What is Dolomay getting his hands on, then? Stuff they're not willing to share? The Flaze leader hisses and makes more slithering sounds. The translator speaks.
Eldred, possess, possessive, ancient enemy, technology, use.
I've got to get my hands on an Eldred ship. The Eldred do not always appreciate the deadliness of the ancient technology they employ, the Domo says. They merely use it. There is still something you can help us with, BC tells the aliens. There is, the Domo questions cautiously, as the Flaze hisses.
What? Want?
The Flaze translator says. I want the two of you to join me and address the human media. Or all four of you, even better. Stand behind me and follow my cues. That's all you'll have to do. Will you at least consider that? The Domo and Flaze confer among themselves. Then the two of them, who have not spoken, turn and leave the room. The Flaze and Domo leaders remain. We too will join you for this media appearance, the Domo tells BC. The Flaze hisses his answer.
There be,
the translator speaks.
No, speak, awkward, Domo, speak.
The Domo nods. Well, at least it's something. Great, BC says, this time meaning it. Krish, Del, can you set me up a news feed? Sure, Krish says. You mean from here? Yeah. I'll take care of it, Krish says. He leaves to make the arrangements. The Flaze hisses, whispers, and is translated.
What? Good display.
It's only a part of my bigger plan, BC explains. But in order for me to get those other parts of the plan in motion, I need the rest of the human race to know how real the whole situation is. I need them to see you, both of you, so they know other races exist out there. He tries to explain. You see, right now, people think Dolomay is another human, a leader of the Universal Islamic Nation, the UIN, gone rogue. Thanks to my government, the UTZ Council, even though the Eldred have attacked human settlements, most humans don't know they've been hit by aliens, only that they've been hit. Most humans don't know what the stakes are in this war, or even that aliens want to take us out, BC says. What of the Eldred's plague? The Domo asks. We've cured the plague, or at least have a vaccine for it now. Even so, people don't know it came from the Eldred. There are rumors it came from aliens, but nobody seems to believe it, BC tells them. That's why I want you to be there as we make this announcement, and after we're through here, the next step is capturing an Eldred ship, and then we can find out what makes it tick. The Flaze and the Domo look at BC in silence. How do you read these guys? Is this surprise? Amusement? Anger? Krish comes back in and places a gray cube in the center of the table. That's it, he tells BC. Whenever you're ready. They're waiting for you. Just speak. It's cued to your voice. BC nods at Krish. Don't want to speak until I'm ready then, do I? BC motions to the two aliens to join him on his side of the table. They move around the table and take up positions behind him. Whoa, what's that smell? Damn, the Domo smells like rotting garbage lying in the hot sun. The Flaze just kind of musty. Well, here goes. Hello, I'm Bernard Campion, Chief CEO of the Universal Trade Zone CEO Council, and a few other things I'll explain in a minute. I'm talking to you today from a base out here in the asteroids, run by the Transspace Project of the UTZ, the company I'm the CEO for. Some of what I'm about to tell you, you may have already heard in other news reports, but I hope you will listen when I tell you that the human race, the entire human race, stands on the brink of being wiped out by powerful forces from beyond our solar system. Please, hear me out. Behind me stand the representatives of two alien species, the Flaze, BC turns in the Flaze's direction, and the Domo, he says, turning back to indicate the Domo. We are not alone in the universe. Besides the Flaze and the Domo, There is another race we call the Eldred. One of their enemies has seized a UIN ship. This enemy looks human, like us, and he has captured a human crew to serve him and fly his ship. You know him as the former head of the UIN, Ibn el-Dolomay. His ships have been attacking us, on Earth, in orbit, on the moon. We recently had a bit of time go by when his ships didn't attack us. He wasn't just lying low, I'm afraid. Instead, the ships were out attacking these aliens and others. These ships have continued their destruction among the worlds of the Flaze, the Domo, and the race called the Eldred. These emissaries of the Flaze and the Domo came here to see me today to warn us that the Eldred are planning to retaliate against us, BC says. Against all of us. They don't see the difference between the UIN and the UTZ. They just see a race collaborating with their enemies. The Eldred have already shown a willingness to take human life. They engineered the plague that nearly wiped us out. Now they are mounting a more physical threat. Our challenge is twofold. We need to stop the ships of humans led by Dolomay, this enemy of the Eldred. We also need to stop the Eldred from exterminating us in the name of interstellar pest control. The Eldred recently attacked Mars. The reason for this is that the man who calls himself Ibn el-Dolomay, who recently rose to lead the UIN, is not a man at all. BC pauses to let what he just said sink in. Dolomay is known by the Eldred as the Ancient Enemy. He is an alien, a member of an ancient race that once dominated the galaxy and dominated the Eldred. He has taken control of the UIN ships and has been marauding through space with human crews under his control. He is causing immense pain and suffering, and his actions now threaten to bring retribution down upon us all. For some strange reason or reasons, I've come to be at the center of all of this. As head of the UTZ Council, I expect to speak for and work on behalf of the UTZ. As the former Pope, I enjoy the support of Mbeke, Pope John Paul IV, and the NCC. I also ask for support from those of you listening on Mars. When Dolomay departed from Mars, Al-Salid granted me the leadership of Mars in order to stop the Eldred from continuing their vicious attack. Although I was declared leader of Mars, I do not claim to lead the UIN. Of course, as of right now, there really is no UIN. All of this has led the Eldred and these other aliens you see here to regard me as the person to talk to. I've been put in a position where I'm speaking for all of us. It's not a burden I'd choose, but I'll try to bear it as best I can and not mess up. None of you elected me, but I hope you'll give me your support as we face this two-pronged challenge. I don't mean to frighten you, but you need to know what the stakes are. We are now effectively at war on an interstellar level. I'll be honest with you, we are in way over our heads here, folks, but we do have allies. BC pauses to nod at both the Flaze and the Domo. And we do have a plan to fight both Dolomay and the Eldred. I can't tell you what that plan is right now, because the Eldred and maybe even Dolomay are listening in on what I'm telling you right now. I have to ask you to bear with me, please. Offer any help you can. As human beings, we're all in this together. In the eyes of our enemies, there is no UTZ, there is no UIN. Only human beings, one race. We really are all in this together. We need to put aside our differences to stand together as the human race. Thank you. Chris moves over and snags the cube from the tabletop. Done, he says as he pockets the device. BC turns to the Flaze and the Domo. Thank you. I know this isn't what you came for, but I think it helped. The Flaze whispers and hisses, and the translator says, Admire, spirit, success, yours, hope, stop, Dolomay. The Flaze turns and leaves the room. That was clever and well done, Campion, the Domo tells BC. We too hope you are successful. The alien turns and follows the other one out. BC is left standing with Anita, Krish, and Del. He lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. I guess that went as well as could be expected, BC assesses. What did I just say? Well, let's see, Anita says. She holds up her hand to tick off her points finger by finger. 1, you declared yourself the leader of the human race. 2, you, promise to eliminate our enemies and save us all, pretty much. That's all. Yeah, that's what I thought I heard myself saying. Just seemed like the right thing to do. So, Anita asks BC, a puzzled look on her face. Do you really have a plan? What do you think? He asks her back. Don't know. Thought you might be making this up as you went along. Did you now? Oh, ye of little faith, BC admonishes her. Of course I have a plan. I just made one up. Anita shakes her head. I knew it, she says. So, what is your plan? We need a UIN ship first. Krish, Del, I need you two to take a transspace engine to Mars, find a UIN ship, install the drive, and fly it back here. Can I ask why? Krish asks BC. You can ask, BC responds, without answering him. He stares at the smaller man. Krish stares back, then gives up and turns to go. Fine, he says as he's leaving. He looks over at Del. Come on. Time to do the Emperor's bidding, you know. Del nods to BC and then turns and follows Krish out the door. So, Anita confronts BC, what is your plan? I want to make a decoy ship. Use it to lure the Eldred into a vulnerable position. Then we use the UIN's old takeover technology to power down an Eldred ship so we can capture it. The UIN's old takeover tech? What, from the early years of the war? The tech that shut down the orbital stations? You think that'll work on the Eldred? She asks him. Not entirely sure, BC admits. But it should distract them, keep them busy, and maybe drain the ship's power. I've been on their ships. Strangely enough, their stuff isn't that different from ours. At worst, the takeover tech won't work. At best, we get control of one of their ships. You are an optimist, she says grimly, but then she smiles at him. That surprises me. Me? I'm just full of surprises, BC jokes lamely. I might seem optimistic on the outside. Inside, not so much. The human race is in real trouble if I'm humanity's best hope for winning this. Do you think your big brain boys out here can adapt that UIN takeover tech to make it more likely to be compatible with Eldred systems? Maybe, she says. I'll tell Krish and Del to start working on that while they're on their way back here from Mars. We'll need to make sure they get a UIN ship with the system built into it. Great, BC says. Next, we're going to need a highly reflective asteroid with a hole in it. Reflective so it's ablative, so the Eldred's weapons won't penetrate easily, he explains. It's got to be big enough for a ship to fit inside. Big enough so we can make a ship-size hole in it, tunnel into it. Any candidates come to mind? Not right off, Anita answers, but that's a little outside my area of expertise. I'll check with our mining and prospecting guys and let you know. Good. Anita looks at him, another puzzled look crossing her face. She breaks eye contact and nearly runs out of the room. I've got to catch Krish and Del and let them know about the takeover tech before they leave, she calls over her shoulder. Don't want to be broadcasting that later, she says, her voice trailing off. What was that look?
That was Chapter 8 of Vatican Abdicator on Glow-in-the-Dark Radio. You know, BC really wants an Eldred ship. He knows we humans can't win without getting more of a technical advantage. Can he trick the Eldred into giving up a ship? We shall see. Good to see the Flaze and the Domo aren't our enemies. They're not exactly our friends either. Not exactly helpful. But BC didn't expect them to be, so there's that. And their info on Dolomay's attacks on extraterrestrial targets was helpful, if disturbing. So there's that too. And that was, as I was mentioning earlier, the longest chapter in this book in Vatican Abdicator. As I apparently learned my lessons from Vatican Ambassador on chapter length. Some of them too long, a couple too short. I don't know what I was thinking then. But these are about what they should be. And again, I didn't see a good point where I could break up that chapter, so seemed to make sense at that length. Well, we'll check in with BC and see what he comes up with as far as ships and turning a UIN ship into a target that helps him lure an Eldred ship into a trap. We'll see if he can do these kind of things. Coming up in Chapter 9 of Vatican Abdicator on our next episode of Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2023 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.